Hey everyone, welcome to QC and Coffee, the podcast where we chat quality careers over quality coffee. I'm your host, Tiahti Young, and every episode we sit down with professionals from all walks of life to talk career paths, industry insights, and what it really takes to land a job and thrive in it. So whether you're job hunting, switching careers, or just here to learn something new, grab your coffee. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the QC and Coffee podcast brought to you by LifeTech Staffing. We're not your typical recruiting firm. We connect quality people with quality work. I'm here with my co-host, Donald Spann. Don, you want to jump in and kick things off?
Yeah, nice to see you guys again. Happy to co-host with the incredible main host, that is Tiahti, and really excited to hear what Dr. Kara has to say. Super excited to meet you.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me to have this conversation, and it's good to be here with you guys.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. And I got to get into the main intro because I love the title. So you let me know if I am announcing you correctly. I have you listed as the VP of Platform Leader and Global Head of Manufacturing, Learning and Development, Dr. Kara King. Did I announce you correctly? Is that the right title?
Kind of. That's one part of my job. So
Okay.
I have a very bifurcated role. It's a very large remit. So I am a platform leader for Pharma Americas, which encompasses 4 sites. 2 of them are in the U.S., 1 in Latin America, and then 1 in China. And that's all operation drug product manufacturing operations, both biologics, pharmaceuticals, vaccines, all of those. And then I have this other world, which is totally different, where I'm responsible in the lead of our global learning and development team for our operational sites and networks. So that is my current role. Yes.
Before Ty hops into this, my real quick question is, where's the site in Latin America?
Oh, Brazil. Mm-hmm. Sao Paulo.
Awesome.
Well, it's in Campinas, which is near Sao Paulo. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Do you get to travel to the client site at all?
Yeah, I'm traveling all the time. That's why, I'm typically really busy and that's why my time zones are so crazy. So I have to be up early for China, which is 12 hours different. And then California is 3 hours ahead of back. So, and Campinas is about, I think, an hour or two. So my time zones are whatever my sites need.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Ty is central, and I'm here in Mexico City, which is basically mountain time.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, we will dive into it. I have a little bit of juice in my cup. I didn't get coffee today. I needed it. I really should grab it after this call, but I'm just sipping on juice this morning in my QC and coffee mug. Don, what are you sipping on this morning?
I've got a cappuccino. It is that is a reference to a guy named Salt Bay. But from Cafe Felix, which is downstairs, high quality coffee.
I'm sipping on hot air and wind sauce. That's what my dad would say for nothing.
Hot air and wind sauce? Is that what that is?
Hot air and wind sauce, which means absolutely nothing. So I'm just ready
I might have to use that. All right, Dr. Kara King, you've led operations at some of the industry's biggest players, from Merck to Pfizer to Zoetis, and across pharma, biotech, and CDMOs. What first drew you to the biopharma space, and how did your career evolve into executive leadership?
Well, it's not really that complicated. So I went to this little HBCU, Hampton University, and I was recruited from Merck. So they were the first people who liked me, and I was excited that they liked me. Yeah. And hey, I started at the bottom as a biotechnician doing final potency release testing for pediatrics vaccines. So I worked in QC at the first start of my career because I am a biologist by training. And that's how I got into it. And so I just never left. So I was under the original mantra that most parents, if they're baby boomers, told you, hey, you find a company, you keep your head down, and you work 30 years until you retired. So, I found this great company, or the company found me, and I just tried to make the most of it. But as you can see, my career, I kind of veered a little bit off of that mantra as I, became clear, really owning my career and going after the things that I wanted to go after and trying to achieve my aspirations. So, I mean, I love manufacturing. I love operations, drug product manufacturing. That's what I've been doing for the last couple of decades. I know I don't look that old, but hey, but that's what I've been doing for the last couple of decades. And it's such a passion of mine. And it's a great space to be in because it has evolved significantly from the 20 years plus that I've been in the role, where you didn't see a lot of people like me at various levels. So to be able to achieve the level that I have and be that representation has been quite distress for me, because sometimes you're a trailblazer, but it has been rewarding in the effect that it's had and motivated and inspired others to go after what they wanted to do. So I know that was a long answer to your question, but that's why.
That was a great answer, though. So thank you. I mean, you mentioned that you love manufacturing. You've led manufacturing platforms across Americas and China while overseeing global learning and development at Zoetis, which I believe is where you're currently at. That's a huge scope. What's been a key to balancing operational excellence with people development across such diverse geographies?
I don't really think it's a balance. It's kind of the must do, right? So if you're in operations and you're a people manager, I always tell people when I put on my mentor hat, if you are a people manager, 70% of your job is doing that, is managing people. The other 30% is the key rules. If you're not willing to have that level of dedication, you should be an individual contributor. So to me, it feels like it's part of, not in addition to. Because if I'm helping to build the capability for the strategic needs that we need for our business, understanding and being embedded in the business makes that advantageous in how I help design the curricula for our team. But in addition, make sure that our team has the capabilities to drive what we need to drive as an organization. So to me, it's not really separate. It feels big because yes, the scope, but I'm building a team under me in this newer organization. That's the role I've been called to stand up that organization, while also managing. And talent development and capability building has always been where I've led. I'm a people focused person first, because I feel like you can find machines to do what we do pretty much, with the great minds. You can create the great procedures, the best processes. But if you don't have people to execute and manage those machines, then that's where you're going to fail. So that's always been how I've led, with people first and making sure that they have everything they need to do to be successful in their roles. Because my circle of, or my worldview when it comes to operations, the people who make and test a product are the center of the earth. Nobody else has a job if they can't do their job. They drive the bottom line, period. So we're there to serve them. So that's how I look at it.
Great answer.
That's a great answer.
26 years of,
Of hard work, yeah.
Yeah, you're ready to be a spokesperson for the entire org at this.
So I did do my homework. I got a chance to look at your LinkedIn profile, and there's a lot of great detail within the profile beyond what you've done throughout your career. One of the things I noticed is that you mentioned that joy, creativity, and innovation are cornerstones of your leadership style. In a highly regulated industry, how do you create space for those values while still driving compliance and results?
Because people are people. And at the end of the day, people want to be recognized and appreciated for what they do. And I feel like when you invest and double down in those cultural activities, you get people who work in a discretionary effort zone. So let me tell you, so in this current role, I have an organization that I'm building. So when I started in this company just recently. I haven't been there a year yet, but I started in this company, and it was an organization of one. Hello, And so I started to create, as I was launching as part of my change management plan and in preparing the organization for this new kind of concept of this new centralized system to manage learning and development for the operations group and their core skills. It was, how can I make it fun? How can I get people engaged around learning and development and being ready for what's to come, which is a heavy lift to kind of design and build the organization and help support. And I did that. I ran a campaign, and it immediately sparked interest, and like, wow, we've been waiting for this. We want more. So it created a pool. So I'm in operations of one. And in that time, I had somebody else transfer into the organization. So now I'm an operation of two. But the rest of the people that are helping me build this organization is all discretionary effort, volunteers across the network. It's like 8 or 10 of them that are helping me do this strategic plan. So you have to create joy. You have to create a way that people feel engaged and appreciated for their work, because you're there 70% of the time. Who wants to work in a discretionary effort zone if you don't like what you do, or you don't like the place, or you don't even like your colleagues? So to me, it's one and the same. When you have a really good culture, people will follow you over the cliff, right? That's not what we want to do. But if you have a good culture, you're able to deliver on results. And that's why I think that what I've learned over the years, being people focused, helps drives the business further than we could probably imagine with scenarios and even modeling that we would do through computers to suggest what our successful state is. People tend to push beyond those.
I absolutely love that concept. I'm not sure I've heard it before, of the discretionary effort zone. I think that when people are a part of an organization, they have their roles, their responsibilities. And, the majority of minimally engaged workers fulfill those responsibilities. But going beyond that into the discretionary effort is what actually drives an organization forward. So, I appreciate you utilizing that concept and sort of like putting your people in that space to where instead of maintaining the status quo and maybe just hovering, you're actually driving your team forward and helping advance the org.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. Like if you ever been a hiring manager, which, you're a staffing firm, right? So, part of your job is to find good talent. What differentiate people aren't the people who are checking the box on the 10 items that's required of their job. That's not what differentiates them. So what differentiates them is what they do above and beyond, or the potential of what they do, or what we believe they can do above and beyond. That's discretionary effort. That's what I'm describing as, hey, who is willing to not only do their job, but hey, connect the dots on how their job can not only influence what they do in this sphere of influence, but also the broader business, right? The broader business, and having that kind of business acumen and other aspects that allow you to think beyond just your role makes you the solution to a potential problem that needs solving. And that makes you valuable.
I would agree.
One of the things I noticed about you and your career is that, you have a unique opportunity, which is sitting in the front row seat to the evolution of advanced therapies like cell and gene therapy. How has working in cutting edge modalities shaped your approach to operations, leadership, or, risk taking?
Yeah. Cell and gene therapy, it's funny that you mention it. I mean, I know, I've moved into animal health. So my career has been in human health for most of it, for most of the decades, 25 years. So animal health, I moved into different patient base, but you still have an effect on people, because people, especially companion animals, and even our food source, right? They're the nourishment and how we survive in some instances, but then also, the companion animal is key. They're like siblings or children of some of family members. And so the impact that we can have on them also impacts the quality of life of people. But I'm saying that to say, when you understand it's that patient impact, and I always knew that our products from a human health go to people and have an impact on people, but cell and gene therapy was specifically impactful because when you're working in cell therapy treatment, most of the time that's one patient, right? And so you can't fail, because if you get the demographics of that person, that you are modifying their cells to help support um, targeting this disease that they may have, you may get the demographic that this is a neonatal patient with stage 4 cancer. You can't fail. That level of impact changes the risks you take, how important you follow your regulations, how you motivate people to have everybody can identify with somebody who's had cancer. But if you read that demographic and say, this is a baby in a neonatal unit with cancer who, if we don't get this right, they may not be around to give us more cells to modify that changes your whole perspective in the value that you create in the world, or in one individual that can have a significant impact to their quality of life. And it's the same thing when we have our leadership meeting recently at my new company. They did a patient impact story, and that patient came in and it was for their dog. their dog was having such problems that it couldn't walk and it was always in pain. And it really did create such a impact to the quality of life of that family, like literally physically depressed and upset. And they thought that the veterinarian had given the dog only a couple months to live. But then they got on one of our products. And although the dog still died, it extended the dog's life for another year. They came to give us thanks for that additional 12 months of time with that. And it was emotional for them. And that's the kind of impact that we have on people's quality of life. With everything going on, if you can help bring a little bit of joy or a peace or help to resolve something for what people have to deal with today in society, period, and all the pressures that comes with that, it makes what we do, makes what I do worthwhile. So yes, it does impact how I manage and think about my business. And sometimes those personal impacts are colleagues that I work with every day who are having to take the medications or utilize the medications for their pets and such.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Again, this goes along with the research that I did, and hopefully you can recall this. But there's a model that you stated: greatness requires intentional transformation. That really resonates with me, and I wanted to see if you could share a time when you had to lean into that mindset to lead major transformation or overcome a challenge.
Yeah, I actually came up with that acronym for GRIT, right? That's what it's for. I modified it actually to create momentum at a site that I was brought in to turn around because it was a troubled site in multiple ways. And a new face, new leadership, first time, person, in a role, as you can imagine. I needed something that could describe the ownership that I needed each person to take, right? And that intentional transformation is a personal one. I can't put it on this department. I can't put it on that group. I can't put it on that shift. I have to own what I choose to be deliberate and intentional about doing differently to help get us out this hole. And so that's how it came. It came to like a come to Jesus moment at a town hall that I had to give my entire site, which was like 3,300 people. And I told them that staying the same was no longer viable, right? That's the burning platform. So don't come to me asking me about a raise or this thing. If we don't change today, there won't be a site tomorrow. So grit, we need to activate our grit, which in order for us to achieve greatness, it requires the intentionality of every action to drive the transformation. So grit requires intentional transformation. You own that. No one else, you own that. And you have to make a decision every day to be different in order to see different. You have to make the intention every day to have a different belief system that will drive your actions that will allow for transformation. That was key. And so and I've kept it because when I realized it was like, that's how I need to continue to lead my life. I've done that in the past without creating a term for it, but that's where it originated from. I needed to do a turnaround and I needed to create momentum. And it became like the theme. How are you activating your grit today? Oh, I did such and such. And that would be, I would walk the floor and I would ask the colleague, how are you activating your grit? And it became so much a mantra. We had t-shirts. I mean, even our senior EVP leaders came and they wanted t-shirts and they were wearing the t-shirts. And actually we had started that when I think right within 6 months that I had gotten to that particular role. And 6 months later, about 6 months later, we had a devastating E3 tornado that knocked down our building. I was there with 2,200 of our colleagues. So one of our buildings that we were there, because we had already had that in our blood at that point, it was so internalized that we came out of that and we were back in operation with a full demolition of a building within 30 days. Because people we were already on such a momentum because of that. And people wanted to get back. And it felt like a gut punch to road that we were on, and they were like, "Oh no, we're not going to stop. We're not going to let this, you know, revert back to where we were. We've come too far, and we're going to continue to push forward." So to me, I think about like, wow, I was thinking about that just to turn the site around, and here we had this major incident, and that was still what was carrying the organization through, and they're still carrying it. I'm no longer there. They're still utilizing it, you know. So, but yeah.
That is an incredible perspective. I think when you have essentially a unit, a large unit of that many people, the individual, if there's not a culture of movement and activation, the individual can kind of try to hide behind all the other people and not really do much, right? So, as long as I'm doing slightly more than the other person, or I'm at a standard, and the standard gets lower as people, are less and less engaged. And so you have a bunch of individuals that aren't participating, essentially. They're just showing up, but they're not participating. So I think what you did was you activated them as a unit so that they could all contribute to something. And so individuals that are not engaged versus a unit of over 1,000 people, a single unit, like this unstoppable force, very powerful and great to see that in action.
Yeah, and when you create that level of personal accountability, when you are one of the ones that opt out of it, you become the person on the out group that everybody's pointing to, like, why aren't you activating your grid? Right? Once you get that critical mass. And so it creates a snowball effect that, hey, you want to be like everybody else and contribute and activate your grit on how we can continue to keep this beast running in the direction that we have going. So it absolutely does that. It helps create this conglomerate to push things forward, but it also creates where we're not being intentional or taking personal accountability. You become the outlier, not the group, right? So.
Uh,
I love the mantra. If you got an extra shirt, I'd love to have one.
Well, I don't know if I can wear it now. It says Pfizer on there. So.
Okay. Well, I can make my own because I do love it. I think it makes a lot of sense and something that we could definitely utilize every single day here at Life Tech as well. So, well, you interface with global teams. I think you were talking about that when we first got on the call, and you've built high-performing teams as well, led global operations, and contributed to community and board leadership. I'm curious to know what's next on your journey. Are you focused more on influence, mentorship, or maybe something entirely new?
I think right now I'm still trying to master the role that I'm in. I love what I do. Like, I am my own undiagnosed ADHD. So normally about this time in a role I start to get, okay, what's next? Right? What else could I be doing? But this is so stimulating with the differences, the geopolitical environment that I am and that I have to manage. And it's been quite stimulating, and also standing up this organization and kind of navigating that within a new organization that I didn't know anybody. I'm pretty well stimulated, but for me, I always like to share information. When I started my career, especially, in a corporate entity, and I've studied this as part of my PhD program as well, information can be used as power. And I always thought that if I learned something, how could I share that? Whether it was my team, I was creating a PowerPoint presentation. Hey, did you know? Or, hey, I just found out this, I want to share it. So I always like to share information because I feel like when you share information, you arm people with the ability to make good business decisions, both personally or, professionally as part of their career. Don't create the opportunity where they opt out because they don't have the information. Let it be a volunteer opt out. Like, I have the information and I choose not to do that. Don't try to exclude people. That's just how I think. And so for me, I always like to share any of my experience. You'll see that through my LinkedIn posts that I do because I have a passion around leadership. Anything that I experience either currently or have in my past, I try to create a post about it just to give people a different perspective, and they can utilize it as they want. What is it? Eat the meat and throw away the bone. Whatever works for your leadership toolkit, but you can't say you didn't get the message. You can't say you weren't exposed to it as an opportunity to think differently about your situation. Because a lot of times people get stuck And it's just because they don't have access to a different perspective.
I have to say I'm super impressed by how succinctly you took essentially complicated organizational and management concepts and distilled them into wisdom that is really applicable to not just your org and your personal experiences, but can be applicable to anyone running a team. And I love the idea of personal accountability. We haven't really had anyone speak to that yet. And I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna be applying some of those teachings. But some of it's an acknowledgement, some of it is sort of a new perspective on things that I've been thinking over the years.
Well, you know what they say, for those people who take the initiative on new information and new content, you're always the first partaker. So that's good that you are planning to partake of and do something with it. So that's good.
So finally, one question I do want to ask: do you have any recommendations for others that are looking to get into this industry and maybe would love to have a trajectory similar to yours?
I mean, that's a big question. So, the industry, I guess, depends on where they're trying to get to, right? I mean, where they're entering the business. I mean, there's a lot, especially if you're going into big pharma. I mean, the career span is so big. Like, yes, I'm a scientist, so it makes sense. I've worked in R&D, I worked in commercial manufacturing, I worked in quality. Those are, typically geared to like STEM roles. But if you have other degrees, I mean, big pharma is so big, like business, pharma, marketing, sales, communications, legal. I mean, there's so many different aspects. That's why I used to tell people when I worked at Merck that, as long as you get your foot in the door, the world is your oyster because it's a global company. I mean, I know people who came in as PhD engineers and ended up in marketing and sales, right? Because they were able to cross that divisional because they got their foot in the door. So again, I think it depends on, it's easier if you're coming in entry level and you could work your way up. If you are coming in at mid level, you have to be able to articulate how your experience is transferable. Like you have to be good at your own salesmanship. You have to be good at being able to be a solution to a problem that the company may have, right? Because as long as they see you as a solution, then you've created value for yourself, right? So, and then I would say, so that's how you get in. And so, and if you know somebody, it's very incestuous, it's very relational. It's a big but small community. Like the people I grew up with are all over now. They're at BMS, they're at Johnson and Johnson. I'm at Zoetis, Pfizer. Zoetis used to be part of Pfizer. It was a spinoff, right? So, we know people now that have grown up in this industry. They're all over. So, yes, the companies kind of go back, people typically go back to different companies. So if they know someone, that's always relationally, I mean, that's always a good point. When you're working in a corporate entity, alliances are a key component of it because resources are not in plethora, right? So you have to be able to navigate and use your relationships to try to get things done. So networking in any organization, in any business is key. You never know. I mean, I got a job offer just going to a conference on the spot, just going to a conference. Didn't know I was going there for that. Right. But got a job, or I still had to go through the process, but basically they said, I want you in my organization. Right. So, I mean, that networking, I would not negate that. That's not just a, topic of the day. It is a requirement, especially if you're getting into corporate industry. And then I would say to navigate, I mean, part of those components are still true. So connecting with people that can be a pull through for you, like a sponsor who has influential power that can help you come into an area that may not be directly related to your skill set, but they have enough political capital on themselves that people will trust that, hey, this person has the potential. If you gave them the stamp, I'm going to do it. You do need sponsors. I didn't get to the position by myself. right?
Hmm.
People helped me get here, but I had to have some gravitas. I had to have something substantive behind what I was offering. I couldn't just do it in name only. I had a demonstrated track record of driving results, of delivering results, of building capability, of building good organizations. And people saw that. So when people do that pull through, they're not just doing it for the most part because humdrum, you rub elbows with them. They're doing it because you have a repertoire that they're willing, and they know you, they're willing to put their political capital on. And sometimes you do it so well because, like I told you, this organization is incestuous. People know you in different places. I came to Zoetis not knowing anybody, but they knew my reputation. They knew what I was
Yeah.
capable of before I got there, but I didn't know anybody in the company.
Yeah, it's great to build intrinsic value so that it becomes an easier decision for those that know you and trust you to help you navigate into that next spot.
And I'm sure Don would agree. I mean, we can hear the passion through your communication around what you do, your leadership style. And, we appreciate you sharing your time and information with us and joining QC and Coffee. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. We know how busy you are, so making time for us in your calendar, cannot thank you enough. So appreciate that.
I appreciate you reaching out and having this type of platform to kind of share different perspectives. If one person takes one thing away, then it was all purposed.
Well, I will close it out with a few final notes in today's outro. Take care. That is a wrap on this episode of QC and Coffee. Huge thanks to our guests for sharing their journey and wisdom. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share with someone who's navigating their own career path. We'll be back soon for more real stories and career insights. Until then, keep growing, keep your mindset strong, and your coffee close.